Policy proposal is on the US and TikTok and looking for a better way to solve the problem and also not make issues with China worse. So, the history behind this started basically in 2019 when TikTok first launched and became massively popular, but then in 2020, the Trump administration had called for a ban and proposed one, citing FBI intelligence that alleged uh, TikTok was a a cybersecurity threat with possible data selling to the Chinese government, but this ban ultimately did not go through. And then in 2022, there was an initiative called Project Texas with the Service Oracle that looked to essentially create ways in which TikTok would be free of foreign influence and become a safer environment that would be free from any interference from the Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party, although it is still debated if this actually worked and if anything actually did happen with it. And then in 2023, the Biden administration took a hard stance against TikTok, starting with the administration banning the app from all federal devices that were in use, but strangely enough, they still use TikTok. And then, in addition to other major events happened that year against TikTok, one was when the state of Montana successfully passed a ban on TikTok for their state, but before the ban could actually be enacted, a federal judge stepped in and ruled that the ban couldn't be placed, so it ultimately never actually took place. And then earlier that year in March, the CEO of TikTok had to sit before the House of Representatives and lawmakers to fight for and defend TikTok and it being free from any influence from China and its focus on user privacy and safety. So really, when looking at the history after the Trump administration, the sentiment towards TikTok in government started to go down with politicians, and many saw it as a threat to national security, which would come to our national security concerns. And this came from Trump, who in 2020 said the FBI had alleged that much of TikTok was unsafe for users and was not a overall safe place for their privacy, as it had allegedly been sold to governments since the company that owns it is based in Beijing. And then with the Project Texas initiative, there were reported accounts of interference in elections and interference with user data in order to spread messages of propaganda. So, obviously, Oracle, in addition to TikTok, were trying to combat this and supposedly prevent any of these allegations from being exactly true. And then obviously with user privacy, there's a big concern for user privacy in that it is for the national policy, it is unknown or sorry, security policy, it is unknown if the app actually does or does not sell information for the Chinese Communist Party to fuel their own political agenda. So the current policy, which was passed by the House earlier in March, states that if it is passed by the Senate and then the President, that the parent company ByteDance has 180 days to sell all the assets, with the main emphasis being on TikTok being sold to that time. And there are some conditions to this, such as buyers have to either mainly the buyers could be picked from the U.S. government as someone they trust, or really anyone or any one company that can afford the price tag of TikTok if it's sold. Uh, But the problem with this is mainly that with the expansion of companies, of other media companies, and especially with other companies that might be able to afford it, like Amazon, the Biden administration has already passed bills into law that would stop any company from being able to purchase TikTok. Um, and then during the time of the 6 month, TikTok wouldn't be banned yet, but if a buyer isn't secured in the 6 month time window, then TikTok would be made illegal for use in the United States, which means that being any service that provides access to it would be fined, and other services like Google Play and the Apple App Store would be forced to remove TikTok from being available for download. And then if the parent company refuses to sell TikTok, then the app would be made illegal regardless of any further attempts to be sold. So my policy recommendation would be more focused on backtracking from a ban and focusing on user privacy and safety and security of the US, such as pushing for more additions such as Project Texas. There could be more cybersecurity services in the world that would provide the same services as Oracle would, that would prevent any outside influence encroaching on users. And then again, user safety, ensuring that there are ways that the general public knows that their information won't be sold. And again, looking for any other third party services to counter foreign influences or, as alleged, interference with elections. And then, but ultimately, if there has to be a ban, the time would be extended from 6 months to more likely a year to a year and a half, to be able to give the parent company time to sell their assets, and also at the same time find someone who would be able to afford TikTok, or find it, or allow the US government to select a company that they trust enough to take over TikTok. And that is my presentation.